right, thank you for tuning in. 20 minutes before 9 o'clock. This is the segment of the morning show that we call News Bites. We take the hottest, freshest news from the news agencies we subscribe to here at WOCA, The Source, and we shrink them.
Yeah.
We bring them down to one paragraph or so. We summarize the news so that you can hear the gist of each story as quickly as possible and get on with your day. Some of these stories might require you to look into them further, and I'm sure you'll find your own resources so that you can do that. We will try when we can. We will deliver to you also the resource that we use. We'll make sure we identify the news agency if we have it. We don't always have that. And if you're interested in sponsoring the program, come by the studios here at the Paddock Mall, sit across the desk from Tish Moeller or Joe Martone or Dan Martone, and they'll tell you how easy it is to be an advertiser on WOCA and support programs like this particular one. The first story, the Obama administration secretly won permission from a surveillance court in 2011 to reverse restrictions on the National Security Agency's use of intercepted phone calls and emails, permitting the agency to search deliberately for Americans' communications in its massive databases, according to interviews with government officials and recently declassified material. In addition, the court extended the length of time that the NSA is allowed to retain intercepted U.S. communications from 5 years to 6 years and more under special circumstances, according to the documents, which include a recently released 2011 opinion by U.S. District Judge John D. Bates, then Chief Judge of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That story did come to us from the Washington Post, by the way.
Secretary of State John Kerry and French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius stood shoulder to shoulder to say that the two countries are united in their belief that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad must be punished for unleashing chemical weapons on his own people. Secretary of State John Kerry is quoted as saying, "This is our chance to join together and pursue accountability over appeasement. We in the United States know, and our French partners know, that this is not the time to be silent spectators to slaughter. What we are talking about is standing together and speaking with one voice in opposition to a clear violation of a red line the world has defended for nearly 100 years. This is from ABC News.
And from Reuters, President Barack Obama will give interviews today to 3 network news anchors as well as to anchors from PBS, CNN, and Fox for more, giving more evidence of a full court press strategy ahead of pivotal congressional votes on military strikes in Syria. The interviews will be taped this afternoon and will air during each network's Monday evening news broadcast tonight. That, according to a statement from the White House, as reported by Reuters.
The makers of Motrin are voluntarily recalling about 200,000 bottles of concentrated drops for infants over potential contamination with tiny plastic particles. The manufacturer, Johnson & Johnson, is also asking retailers to remove the affected product from the shelves and asking customers to stop using the infant drops if they have a bottle that is part of the recall. The possibly tainted product is berry flavor concentrated Motrin infant drops. The recalled half-ounce bottles can be identified by their lot numbers DCB3T01, DDB4R01 and DDB4S01. This is a quote from a Johnson & Johnson spokesperson. "The health and well-being of consumers is our company's number one priority. If you have questions or concerns or would like to inquire about a refund, please visit the johnsonandjohnson.com website."
And if you need those numbers repeated, we'll be glad to do that for you over the phone. The next story from the Washington Post, a meat inspection program that the Agriculture Department plans to roll out in pork plants nationwide has repeatedly failed to stop the production of contaminated meat at American and foreign plants that have already adopted the approach, according to documents and interviews. The program allows meat producers to increase the speed of processing lines by as much as 20% and cuts the number of USDA safety inspectors at each plant in half, replacing them with private inspectors employed by the meat companies. The approach has been used for more than a decade by 5 American hog plants under a pilot program, but 3 of these plants were among the 10 worst offenders in the country for health and safety violations, with serious lapses that included failing to remove fecal matter from meat. According to a report this spring by the USDA Inspector General, the plant with the worst record by far was one of the 5 in the pilot program.
Tokyo was awarded the 2020 Olympics on Saturday. This was because they were capitalizing on its reputation as a safe pair of hands and defying concerns about the Fukushima nuclear crises. Tokyo defeated Istanbul 60-36 in the final round of secret voting by the International Olympic Committee. Madrid was eliminated earlier after an initial tie with Istanbul. Tokyo, which hosted the 1964 Olympics, billed itself as a safe and reliable choice at a time of global political and economic uncertainty. Tokyo is the right partner at the right time, according to CBS News.
And the next story from the Florida News Network: smokers will not be allowed to work in Flagler County, Florida, and they'll have to pass a nicotine test before starting to work to prove they don't light up. Last month, the Flagler Board of County Commissioners voted to require potential county employees to undergo testing for nicotine use and to pledge in a signed affidavit that they will remain tobacco-free throughout their employment. However, the new rules have raised flags for a civil liberties group that said it is unconstitutional for the government to administer blanket tests for nicotine or drugs on any group of people. The board says rising health insurance costs and Flagler County's generally health-conscious outlook prompted the change. The county offers its employees weight loss and smoking cessation programs and has a nutritionist and exercise physiologist available for the staff. Testing would begin October 1st for all applicants who receive a conditional job offer and would be part of the urine drug screening that the county already conducts. If applicants test positive for nicotine, the county will not consider hiring them for employment for 1 year after the screening.
Wow. Treasuries fell for the first time in 3 weeks, pushing 10-year note yields to a 2-year high on speculation economic growth that has improved enough to make the Federal Reserve comfortable slowing bond purchases this month. Benchmark yields breached 3% yesterday for the first time since July 2011, before a lower than forecast jobs report sent them plunging the most on an intraday basis since November. Fed policymakers are debating whether the pace of economic growth merits reducing the asset purchases that they have made to support the economy and keep borrowing costs low. The Treasury Department's sale of $63 billion in notes and bonds next week includes the smallest auction of 3-year debt in 4 years.
You're listening to NewsBites. This is the segment of the morning program that we created so we could deliver to you as many news stories as possible in a short period of time. We take the news, the freshest, hottest news off of the news agencies that we subscribe to, and we narrow it down to a paragraph or so that we can get as many in as possible on your way to work, on your way to bringing the kids to school. And the next story is from CNN. A child has died after contracting a rare but deadly brain-eating amoeba infection while visiting a home in Louisiana, according to state health officials. Officials believe the child is a 4-year-old boy from Mississippi who may have come in contact with the waterborne Naegleria fowlera amoeba while playing on a plastic toy water slide, according to St. Bernard Parish President David Peralta in an interview with CNN. Water samples taken from the home tested positive for the amoeba, according to the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. The state health department has not released the child's age or identity out of what officials describe as an abundance of caution. St. Bernard Parish on Thursday began treating its water system with additional chlorine and flushing any potentially contaminated water from its lines. The treatment may result in changes in the smell, taste, and color of the local water, according to the release issued by the health department in that parish.
Oh, how tragic. Here's some news that has law enforcement officials and lawmakers scratching their heads in Iowa. The state of Iowa is granting permits to acquire or carry guns in public to people who are legally or completely blind. No one questions the legality of the permits. Iowa state law does not allow sheriffs to deny an Iowan the right to carry a weapon based on physical ability. The quandary centers squarely on public safety. Advocates for the disabled and Iowa law enforcement officers disagree over whether it's a good idea for visually disabled Iowans to have weapons.
The next story is from the Tampa Tribune. The U.S. government insists it has the intelligence to prove it, but the American public has yet to see a single piece of concrete evidence. No satellite imagery, no transcripts of Syrian military communications connecting the government of Syria or President Bashar Assad to the alleged chemical weapons attack last month that killed hundreds of people. In the absence of such evidence, Damascus and its ally Russia have aggressively pushed another scenario that rebels carried out the August 21st chemical attack. Neither has produced evidence for that case either, though, and that's left more questions than answers as the U.S. threatens a possible military strike.
A third group of Palestinian prisoners will be released from Israeli prisons regardless of the progress made in peace negotiations, according to Palestinian officials. The prisoners are scheduled to be released October 29th amid ongoing negotiations between the two sides seeking to reach a peace accord to end decades of violence in the Middle East. Israel agreed to release about 100 prisoners as a precondition for negotiations, many of whom had served long sentences for carrying out attacks that claimed Israeli lives. This is from UPI.
A Palm Beach County man says his family was ejected from Universal Studios in Orlando because his T-shirt contained the word police, and he's not a law enforcement officer. It happened August 24th when Christian Jarosz and his family were celebrating his daughter's 16th birthday. The Palm Beach Post reports the shirt was a gift from Jaroz's brother, who is a retired police officer in New York. He says he has worn the shirt to other theme parks without any problem. The words police and Street Crimes Unit are printed on the back of the shirt. Jarosz says the family was on the way to watch a Blue Man Group performance when a Universal security guard stopped them. He said the guard told him, "You can't wear that shirt in here." The guard said he was citing park policy. Jarosz said he then went to a nearby shop to buy a new shirt, but as he prepared to purchase it, he was surrounded by security guards and told not to bother. He said they were threatened with arrest if they refused to leave, so the family left Universal Studios. And as an epilogue, I did look at another story that said Universal Studios has since apologized to the man.
Oh, thank goodness. Congressman Daniel Webster of Florida is among about 24 members of the United States House who support an eventual path to citizenship for the millions of people who are in this country illegally. These Republicans are facing the daunting challenge of trying to persuade colleagues to follow them. Most Republicans oppose the path to citizenship, and there's little political incentive for them to change their minds. Only 24 of 233 Republicans represent districts where more than 1/4 of their constituents are Hispanic.
Out of Amsterdam, the Van Gogh Museum says it has identified a long-lost Vincent van Gogh painting that spent years in a Norwegian attic, believed to be by another painter. It is the first full-size canvas by the Dutch master discovered since 1928. Sunset at Montmajour depicts trees, bushes, and sky painted with Van Gogh's familiar thick brush strokes. It can be dated to the exact date it was painted because Vincent described it in a letter to his brother Theo and said he painted it the previous day, July 4th of 1888. He said the painting was done on a stony heath where small twisted oaks grow. Museum experts said the painting was authenticated by letters, style, and the physical materials used, and they had traced its history.
A college here in Florida gave Florida students an education in deceit. As a mother of two in the throes of a divorce, Whitney Collins inquired about ATI Career Training Center because she wanted a better life for her young boys. The admissions rep called almost daily, persistent as a car salesman, pressuring her to enroll. Though the $46,000 price tag for ATI's 2-year ultrasound technology program seemed awfully steep, Collins was assured that federal grants and loans paid directly to the school by the government would make it affordable. She took the bait. 6 months into her studies at the Miami Gardens campus, ATI shuttered its doors under the weight of 2 damaging whistleblower lawsuits in Florida and Texas that claimed the school was an elaborate fraud designed to siphon millions in student aid from the government while sticking students with an overpriced, often worthless diploma. This is from the Miami Herald.
All right, you're listening to News Bites. This is the segment of the morning where we read through the news very quickly, bringing you the summarized versions of the stories that are making the news all over the nation and the world, and in some cases, the state of Florida. If you'd like to sponsor the program, it's pretty easy to do. Call or come by the studios here at the Paddock Mall. Sit with Tish Moeller, Dan Martone, Joe Martone. They will explain to you what it takes, how easy it is, and they'll take you by the hand. Make sure it happens for you so your business will benefit. The next story is from the Washington Times. Republicans are using their weekly radio and internet address to focus on health insurance costs under President Barack Obama's health overhaul. Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, who was an orthopedic surgeon before coming to Congress, says many families, quote, are going to have real sticker shock when they see their new insurance rates, unquote. He says Republicans want to help people get the medical care they need from the doctor they want at a lower cost, and that the only way to accomplish that is by repealing the health law. There you go. That was from the Washington Times.
Mm-hmm. A United States-based porn actor has tested positive for HIV, the third such case reported in less than 3 weeks. This is leading a Los Angeles-based trade group for adult filmmakers to call a fresh nationwide moratorium on productions. The infections follow a vote last year by Los Angeles County residents to require porn actors to wear condoms when having sex on set, a measure that proponents of the requirement complain is largely going unenforced in the county. Need to have inspectors. In the latest infection, a doctor affiliated with health screening facilities used by the pornography industry reported that a performer had tested positive for HIV. And this for HIV. This is according to Joanne Cachapero, the membership director of the Free Speech Coalition. This is the trade group for adult filmmakers. Details on the performer, including gender and any adult film company that employed him or her, were not released by the group. She said that she could not discuss in which part of the country the person was based.
Why did I know that you were going to laugh at that one?
I could.
All right, the next story. General Mills recalled a limited number of 8-count Pillsbury cinnamon rolls with icing due to broken pieces of plastic found on the production line. General Mills said in a news release, it's possible the dough in the cinnamon rolls may contain fragments of plastic and could be dangerous to consume. The Class 2 recall includes only the 8-count single Pillsbury cinnamon rolls with icing, with the better if used by dates on the packages of, 30 October 2013 and 31 October 2013. There you go. Also included in the recall is the Pillsbury cinnamon rolls with icing 2-pack with the better if used by dates of October 18th and October 26th of 2013, as well as October 31st. No other varieties of Pillsbury cinnamon rolls are included in the recall, according to General Mills. The story comes to us from the UPI Radio Network.
International Business Machines Corporation, also known as IBM, plans to move about 110,000 retirees off its company-sponsored health plan and instead give them a payment to buy coverage on a health insurance exchange, in a sign that even big, well-capitalized employers aren't likely to keep providing the once common benefits as medical costs continue to rise. The move, which will affect all IBM retirees once they become eligible for Medicare, will relieve the technology company of the responsibility of managing retirement health care benefits. IBM said the growing cost of care makes its current plan unsustainable without big premium increases, according to Fox News.
And U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry urged the European Union on Saturday to postpone a planned ban on European Union financial assistance to Israeli organizations in the Palestinian territories. According to a U.S. official, Kerry made the request at a meeting with the European Union foreign ministers, at which he also called on them to support Israeli-Palestinian peace negotiations, which resumed on July 29th after a nearly 3-year hiatus. The European Union imposed restrictions in July, citing its frustration over the continued expansion of Jewish settlements in territory captured by Israeli forces in the 1967 Middle East War.
In the backyard of his remote Southern California home, Bernie Jones is etching an unconventional blueprint, a construction plan to build his underground survival shelter. It won't be the typical cramped Cold War-era bunker. It will hold 20 people. Part of a small but vocal group of survivalists in Menifee, California, some 80 miles east of Los Angeles. Jones, who's 46 years old, has pushed for the right to build a bunker on his 1-acre property for nearly a year. He wants to be ready for anything, be it natural disaster or a nuclear attack. Jones is quoted as saying, "The world is taking a change, and I want to be prepared."
Some corruption may have been found in the BP Gulf of Mexico settlement program. The probe, led by former FBI Director Louis Freeh, found evidence of a plot by senior lawyers to corrupt the BP settlement program. Mr. Freeh concluded that senior staff members of court-appointed claims administrator Patrick Junot engaged in conduct that was improper, unethical, and possibly criminal. He recommended that his report be forwarded to the Justice Department. The nature and seriousness of this type of conduct varied in degree, but was pervasive and, at its extreme, may have constituted criminal conduct, according to a quote in the report.
The U.S. fertility rate fell to another record low in 2012 with 63 births per 1,000 women ages 15 to 44 years old. This is according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's down slightly from the previous low of 63.2 in 2011. It marked the fifth year in a row the U.S. birth rate has declined and the lowest birth rate on record since the government started tracking the fertility rate in 1909. In 2007, the rate was 69.3. Falling birth rates can be considered a challenge to future economic growth and the labor pool, according to CNN.
All right, you've been listening to NewsBites. We take about 20 minutes each weekday morning, and we bring to you the news from around the world that we get from the different news agencies we subscribe to here at the source, WOCA. We narrow them down. We shrink them to one paragraph or so, try to deliver them in 1 minute's time or so. Robin, how many did we get through today?
26.
26? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, 26 stories in 20 minutes. You can't get any better than that.
No.
Be sure to tune in each weekday morning, if for nothing else, to NewsBites, because we put the news back in News Talk with that little program that you just heard. If you'd like to sponsor it, be sure to come by the station here at the Paddock Mall. See Joe Martone, Tish Moeller, or Dan Martone, and they will tell you how easy it is to get your advertisement on the radio. And on this particular segment, we will promise that we can, if you want us to, can read it live for you. We'll take a little break and we'll be right back. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Larry.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. President Obama will be all over the airwaves today after giving interviews to 6 major networks to press his case for a U.S.-led strike on Syria. Congress is back today to debate authorizing one. Tropical storm Humberto has formed out in the Atlantic with top winds of 40 miles an hour. It could become a hurricane. The festival ride that suddenly stopped, flinging riders to the ground in Connecticut, had just been inspected by state officials last week. More than a dozen people were hurt. 2 fan falls at NFL games left 1 man dead and 2 injured. Witnesses say a young man who plunged to his death from an elevated walkway at Candlestick Park in San Francisco appeared to be intoxicated. In Indianapolis, 2 men were injured when a railing gave way at the Colts game against the Raiders. A man accused of shooting and killing a New York City toddler in his stroller says it was a horrible accident and an evil act he has to live with. Daquan Breland told the Daily News, remorseful doesn't even begin to describe what he feels. His apparent target was the child's father in a possibly gang-related dispute. This is ABC News.
They call me Murphy, and I'm a service tech at Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. It was 9:30 on a Saturday morning, and a Kona Blue Mustang drove in.
I'm due for a tire rotation.
I poured her coffee, black. She hopped on Wi-Fi, and I got to work. I inflated, rotated, and aligned the tires. Multi-point inspection looked good. Took a half hour, tops.
With a full range of services, great prices on 13 name brand tires, and no appointment necessary, Quick Lane is ready to serve. Visit quicklane.com.
These days, everyone is looking for ways to save money. One idea is to get a free rate quote on your car insurance from Geico. You could save 15% or more. It's a wonderful way to save money. And after that, if you're still looking for ways to save, here's another handy tip. To save money on clothing, do like me. Just don't wear any. And you'll also save money on dry cleaning.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. Where at Florida? Times of clouds and sun today. A morning shower in spots near the coast with a high of 87 to 91. And clear skies tonight with a low of 69 to 78 degrees. For tomorrow, looking partly sunny, similar for Wednesday, with a shower or thunderstorm spreading from the coast to inland areas each day. The high tomorrow and on Wednesday from 87 to 90 degrees. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Evan Duffy.
Hi, this is Joe, and I'm your host for the news show